Welcome to Practical Wisdom Stories. I'm so excited to have as our guest today Anne Borozan. She is a previous student of mine, now becoming a teacher, a friend, and somebody who has inspired me with volunteering and just showing her leadership, especially with women, supporting women leadership as on the board of the women at Microsoft. And so I thought she'd be a great person to just give us some advice on, how do we, especially, women support other women and create that, that sisterhood and that camaraderie. And so welcome, Anne. I guess the first question to start is, because I think that origin story is really interesting for people to just learn a little bit more about how we find our superpower and what our values are. So if we would just start off with, what is a story from your childhood that was a defining moment in shaping your character?
Sure. So one of the things that I think about is just something that I naturally did. So it wasn't necessarily a defining moment, but it was me emerging. Mm-hmm. And when I was 7 years old, I started taking piano lessons, and I would, on my own, get up every day at 6 a.m. and practice from 6 to 6:30. And my parents were like, what? She's like doing this on her own. Get it every day, 6 to 6:30. I had a grandfather clock near the piano, and I would, wait till it chimed, and then I would be finished with my practice. But I think that that sort of already defined sort of the way I dive into things and really work to improve things. And it was just already there from the beginning.
Yeah. So you're self-disciplined, I guess, maybe. Is that a quality you would say?
Yeah, I guess, and I guess it was there back then too. And
was it more that it was a self-discipline because you just wanted to do it, or is it more like it was a passion and you loved doing it?
I think it was both, because I liked it, and but I think that developed into a self-discipline, that developed into a habit, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Which is so interesting, is just to think, how do we cultivate habits and, make things stick? So thank you is, that they go hand in hand. Like the more you're good at it, the more you like it, therefore the more you do it. And so they feed off each other. It's awesome. Thank you. And I guess then another question, this is a collection of stories of practical wisdom and just some life lessons. So what would you say is kind of a guiding either mantra or belief that you have?
I would say that, let's see, what I've noticed is when you're passionate about something, it just, all of the work aspect of it can just disappear, and you just are doing it because you love it and you're in the zone. Mm-hmm. And for me, then my creativity comes out, any fears drop away, etc. And I'm seeing that in my work in the tech industry, for women in diversity. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's easy to take your passion and then go make some changes. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to minimize all the work involved and everything, but there's just, again, so much low-hanging fruit. There's just so much to do, and there's so much variety of ways to participate. And so it's really fun to see everybody bringing their own particular passions around it into the mix.
Yeah, which is so interesting because, I guess maybe one of the practical wisdom things that I thought is like, don't believe everything you think, and I think sometimes with volunteering or social change, it feels overwhelming, and like, how in the world do you begin, let's say, especially with women, if it's a gender equality or, workplace changes, and then you think about the country and some of the cultural and shifts to make. And I think it seems counterintuitive in a way that you call it low-hanging fruit, because maybe I think in the minds of our listeners, it might feel overwhelming and too huge. So maybe what's a story or an example of some low-hanging fruit or kind of an easy access point?
Well, let's see. Another thing I'll say about that, though, is if you have good leadership in place, somebody that's there. There are people who their gift is their ability to lead, and their leadership sort of invites others to be leaders, and that's what's really fun to see, I think.
Okay.
And in those cases, they're inviting people to take their particular talents and skills and passions and then make change from those. And
And
I've
either who is somebody who did that, or what was an experience or um,
I
project that you saw that happen?
well, Kim Denny at
Mhm.
Microsoft,
Okay.
she's a really awesome leader. And she a few years ago she created a board for women in the Windows and Devices group. There's
Mhm.
no that so it was about 3 or 4 years ago,
Mhm.
and she built a board of 13 people, and it was so the board was so productive and prolific in the programs that they put out, and it was so successful because everybody was invited to do what they're most passionate about, and everybody owned their own activities,
What
basically.
was the piece that you owned?
I was involved in the communications and just making sure we had a communications channel. And I was doing that with Kylie Modine. And we just developed it from ground up. And we had a pretty good newsletter and other things going that were actually where the newsletter was actually getting read.
Mhm.
And so it was just a remarkable experience, and it was bonding for all of us. We're
Yeah.
all good friends now. It was very bonding and lasting, and we call on each other for different consulting about different things all the time now.
Yeah. Well, I love that too, because I think, another, I don't know, maybe misbelief most people have is that, when you give, you lose, like you lose time, or something like that. And I also found in my life too, this concept of giving is receiving, that, the more you give, the more you get back. And so just hearing yours is a really good piece of evidence that sure, you did put some time in, but gosh, you got that camaraderie and that connection back. So I think that's very inspiring to people who might be thinking, oh, do I have any more to give? I'm already running on empty. Is that's actually a way to, refill the tank and get something back, is by giving.
It was super effective at refilling our tanks because we were there was so much respect for each person on the board. There was a lot of respect shown, and that just makes people grow.
Mhm.
Versus, I've seen other situations where maybe the people leading want to they have a design in mind and they'd like to implement that, and that can work too, but it's not doesn't work the same way as this
Mhm.
team building and bonding thing that I
So
think.
what made that so successful? What was, if we wanted to replicate some of that leadership style that was so effective, what would you say were the ingredients or the tactics that made that successful?
I think respect is it sounds sort of easy to do or cliche, but
Mhm.
real respect for each person on there, and trusting that trusting them and that they'll handle their
Mhm.
pillar of activity,
Right.
and it
Was
just
it like appreciation, or just saying like, hey, Anne, I see that you got great communication skills. I trust you, make it happen? Or like,
it
how did you know? Or
how
how?
did we could tell by just the dialogue of the way the group spoke with each other. We developed this culture of trust and appreciation for each other. We were able to have like active disagreements at times, and we'd still come
Mm.
out of it with this trust and appreciation all the time. And that just made everything grow. And also, for me, it was just so inspirational. It was inspirational to see, oh, this is possible. This
Okay.
kind this kind of interaction or dynamic is possible in the tech industry,
Yeah.
and it's super inspirational.
Oh, well, and that's, I guess you're giving that gift back to us, is that hope of what is possible and how can we recreate that in our organizations and our, um, you know, missions as well, and the boards that we're involved in. So thank you so much. And I guess if you were to summarize a practical wisdom, what would you say that is?
Practical wisdom, I would say, just there's so much to do, and you can make a difference there. It's easy. It's easy to jump in and start doing it. You don't have to be intimidated, for sure. There's like I said, I'll go back to the low-hanging fruit. There's a lot.
Thank you. Oh, that's such a great message. I know a lot of women in particular have shared, about this imposter syndrome and maybe not feeling qualified or something. So your message really does invite people into that we all have something to contribute, and, we don't have to wait till our end of our career or some milestone or degree or something, that we can all just get started now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anne. We're so grateful for your expertise, your encouragement, and your inspiration. Thank you.
Grateful for yours too.